So, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you are watching or listening us from. Again, welcome back to our channel and today's episode where we will be discussing about the future of farming and agriculture in Africa. And the question that we are asking ourselves today is whether the African agriculture is headed towards the right path to grow and scale in a manner that it will sustain to feed the ever-growing African population. Right now, the African population in 2023 is estimated at around 1.1 billion people, and it is, growing very rapidly. And in the next few decades, it will be hitting 2 billion people. And the question that we want to analyze today is whether we are growing on a path that will help our agriculture to be more productive, more intensive, in a manner that it will feed billions of people in the coming years, and also grow to a level whereby it can export to other economies across the globe. So, first few facts before we start. It is always claimed that agriculture as a standalone business is not sustainable, and this is supported by the fact that no government in the world that at least performs well does not have an incentive program for their farmers, at least through forms of subsidies or tax exemption or other incentive measures that they put in place to ensure that a lot of farmers continue to remain in business. Then the second challenge that the African governments appreciate is that agriculture is a very, very critical sector of their economies, and that they don't want to take risk when farmers abandon the activity, because it can subject their countries into a hunger crisis, and no government wants to face that issue as long as they are ruling. So the population of Africa continue to increase, and this has put a lot of pressure on the land resource. And everybody who has traveled across the African continent can tell you that the size of African farms have continued to go down. A few 10 years ago, the average size of land in Africa was around 5 hectares, and today we are talking of an average 1 acre piece of land per habitant, which is very, very quite small for you to practice any substantial commercial farming on it. And from my experience visiting successful farmers in other economies, there is something that has always stood out, and this is the aspect of economies of scale, which has this needs to be really thought about by anybody who is passionate about African farming. When you do practice farming in a very small piece of land, it denies you the opportunity to benefit from the gains of economies of scale. You are not able to do your upstream and your downstream operations in a manner that helps you to negotiate for volumes. If you are purchasing your inputs from a supplier of an agrochemical supplier, and then you are just buying for 1 acre piece of land, then it means that you don't have a voice in terms of pricing or how much you pay for it. But on this other hand, if you have, like, let's say 2,000 acres, you just deal with very serious suppliers who will listen to you when you want to bargain, or when you request for discounts. And also on this other hand, when you are approaching the market, you also have a voice, because you are producing quite huge volumes, and your buyers are serious buyers. They are maybe manufacturers of various sectors, or they are millers if you are doing grains, and you can determine your price because your supply is reliable, and you can also produce quality depending on the person you are targeting to buy from you. So those are the advantages of you operating at a very large scale, and it makes it very easy for large scale farmers in other parts of the world to succeed. But now we have found ourselves in a situation whereby in Africa the pieces of land are quite small, and these economies of scale have become something that is not practical. But we don't have to give up, because in my thinking there is a way out. I think government must take lead in organizing farmers to benefit from the strategies of aggregation and coming together and work as one individual, in as much as everybody is on their own piece of land. And how this can happen depends on, the population culture, and also the mindset of the people in that rural area, and also the history of land emotional topics, depending on whether people can cease to live on their land and leave it to someone else, so that that person can occupy a bigger piece of land and operate as a large scale farmer. So those are topics that need to be handled with a lot of care, so that they don't burst into, emotional conflicts, because people have very, very close attachment to land, not only as a factor of production, but also as a social resource. So in my thinking is that government must take lead to organize farmers into blocks of 1,000 acres at least. Even if every farmer has a quarter piece of land or a quarter acre piece of land, they must all be organized to form a block of 1,000 acres, and then they operate as one, meaning that they will procure all their input as one. They will, do all their applications as one, from planting all the way to harvesting, and they will target one buyer to buy from them all the produce that they harvest. And by so doing, there will be no difference between all those farmers and one single farmer who owns all that piece of land. But there must be regulation measures set by the government. There must be intermediaries who are ethical and who are governed by a policy set up by the government. And also the mode of operations have really need to be determined by the government or key stakeholders who are implementing this strategy. So there is a way out, and the way out has to be economies of scale. How it works depending on which country, in which community, in which society, will highly be customized. So guys, thank you for listening in, and if you have any feedback, put it in the comment section, and I look forward to interacting with you in the next episode. Goodbye.